Okay, Thursday edition of the After Show. You got Wink and Justice with you. Wink over here on the East Coast.
And Justice over here on the West Coast. Thank God it's Giovedi. That's right. That's what we call Thursday here on the After Show.
Heck yeah.
Basically because we can.
Yeah.
But also, we honor the great God Joe because Thursday is truly the gateway to the weekend.
Hell yeah.
Speaking of which, how are you doing, Wink?
Not bad, not bad. It is sunny and 65. And going up to, I guess, 70, 71, 72, somewhere right in there. So it's going to be a nice sunny day today. I'll take that. Reminder to get in the chat. Just go to netrootsradio.com. Scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. So click that. Join us there.
And, hey, we got a Get Out the Vote campaign going on. You'll notice it. Go to the homepage. So you need to get out to vote ourselves and encourage other people to vote. I would, I understand the purity of it when when people go, I don't care who you vote for as long as you vote. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, this time around, I don't know. Yeah,
maybe if you're going to vote, maybe you vote this way.
Yep.
Or, take a look at this. But that's just me.
Exactly.
Well, here along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast, it is currently 49 degrees, supposed to go up to 70. We'll see.
Yeah.
Quite fast. No chance of rain, but it sure feels like it wants to. So we'll see. The satellite radar image showed quite a bit of moisture in the air here in the Northwest. But we're supposed to, maybe dry out, which would be good. Because when the grass blades start like bending over on your lawn,
yeah,
that's never good.
Yeah,
when you have to mow, it just means, oh my God, there's going to be a lot of material.
Yeah,
be pushing through, and a lot of material expended out on the lawn too, which then I have to go back over and get a bag. I
hate that.
It's crazy. I have like 2 electric mowers, one that I plug in that doesn't have a bag, and then one that's a battery one, lithium. Actually, it's pretty nice, but it does have the bag, so I use it more like a vacuum cleaner when I need to.
Right, exactly right, yeah.
It'll run out of charge for the size of my yard, but it's good for vacuuming up extra material.
There you go.
So, but I haven't been able to get out into the yard. It's been too wet. What am I going to do? And I fed the yard, for its fall, winter application.
Yep.
Some rain, and it happened. So everything worked the way it's supposed to. Boy, life is such that you feed it, it wants to grow. Oh, boy. Well, these are the issues that we will be attending to today. And they are convicted coal baron Don Blankenship, from the CEO of Massey Coal, that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he exercises his First Amendment rights by issuing a 67-page booklet from federal prison claiming he's an American political prisoner.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I've known people that have been in federal prison. I've known people who've been in state prisons. I've known people who've been in jail over the weekend. Normally, they don't get to publish things. Send it out to the world. Isn't that weird? But I'm just saying. How is he able to publish a 67? This is the story that's in my head. It doesn't. That's not being issued. Not being investigated. Just the fact that he feels he's a political prisoner because, why should he be blamed for all these deaths that he was found guilty of? And get this, it's only a misdemeanor. And he's whining about it. Isn't this how they always are, Wink?
Indeed.
Law and order, and then they get put in on a misdemeanor. Oh, it's the greatest travesty of justice in the history of the mankind. How dare you? Well, we do have a theme here. It's sort of judicial. Let's see. With heated exchanges between defense lawyers, defense witnesses, and defendants against the judge, Eamon Bundy defended his takeover of the Malheur Wildlife Refuge in federal court. I don't know. It's a theater there. It's real. Well, we'll get into it when we get into it. And then summing up for the top half, the Bridgegate trial, Wink. That's not in your neck of the woods. Well, it reveals Chris Christie's expletive-filled tirades. So hopefully the kids are all at school, and because
yeah,
it's not safe for work. We'll just say it that way. But on the last half, we're going to report that in one of the largest mass rescue operations undertaken on the Mediterranean Sea, the Italian Coast Guard rescued over 10,000 migrants and refugees in 2 days. And tax-avoiding U.S. corporations have offshored more money than the gross domestic product of France. I guess they have their own country now.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
All that, plus the Connect, Unite, Act, Daily Coast community calendar, and more on the after show with that ever so fine fellow over there on the East Coast with his ever so subtle East Coastal elitism. And his name is Wink. And this guy back over here on the West Coast, nothing limited about my elitism. Hey, it's all over the place. And my name is Justice, just to prove the point. And we do this 5 days a week for an hour-ish in this time period because, as the great Telly Savalas would always intone, who loves you, baby?
Exactly.
Yep. Some actors, they go through the whole method acting thing and, become different characters in some ways, but there's really always something inside of them. And then there's other actors that sort of like play themselves, in some way, or at least they've latched on to a character of themselves. And
right.
They play,
yep.
Right.
They play that. Yep.
So I don't know. I always like to think that Telly Savalas used to, just say, who loved you, baby? Like in real life. Because, that's how they did it back then. Yep. You had Don Rickles.
Yes.
Right. Who made fun of everyone. Right? Everyone. And then you got somebody else saying, who loves you, baby? I don't know. That's why I like Kojak instead of Don Rickles.
There you go.
Sounds like Trump's a little pissed off that Pence showed him up in the debate. How did Pence show up Trump? Isn't that weird?
Yeah, I don't get it. I didn't see the debate, but it's
he's a megalomaniac. He's an absolute megalomaniac. Oh, also sounds that I never made it, like a habit because the Playboy channel costs money, right?
Yeah.
So I got better things to do with my life than to pay whatever it was that was a cable charge to have the Playboy channel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But Trump was a regular.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Well, he's running for president.
Yeah.
He's talking to her, but he's not an angel.
He's kind of a playboy, I guess, back in the day.
A playboy. He was trying to affect the whole epitome of playboy.
Pretty much, yeah.
And, looks like also Daddy bailed him out a lot more than we even were aware of. So that's something we might talk about. I haven't really done stories that are explicitly about Trump. I mean, we talk about him, at the top, but I like to dig at the whole Trump phenomena from the edges, stories that have some sort of ancillary connection. So that's how we do it.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of which, see, this is the kind of mindset that is always bothersome. And this article is by Kelly Crow, senior editor at Think Progress, for features sports climate. Don Blankenship, the former CEO of Massey Energy, who is currently serving a 1-year sentence in federal prison for conspiring to violate safety standards, is defending himself in the form of a 67-page booklet entitled American Political Prisoner. Usually you don't try to get away with this until you're in the halfway house. But he's doing it right from federal prison. The 2010 explosion at Blankenship's Upper Big Branch mine in West Virginia killed 29 people, the worst coal mining disaster in roughly 40 years, and Blankenship was found guilty of a misdemeanor for his part in, quote, dangerous conspiracy, end quote, to flout federal mine safety regulations, and those were in the words of Judge Irene C. Berger. Much to the dismay, and this is a parenthetical, by the way, much to the dismay of prosecutors and some victims' families, Blankenship was acquitted of 3 felony charges that would have resulted in a significantly longer prison sentence than a slap on the wrist for a year. And that is such an egregious miscarriage of justice to this guy that he's an American political prisoner.
About that.
Now, let's remind folks, because we followed this way back, and some of the testimony that was presented and some of the documents that were gleaned is that they put an actual value on a miner's life, and if it was cheaper just to pay the death benefits or do the safety upgrades that, yes, the state and the federal government told them to do, they opted to pay the death benefits. That's how much he cared about his workers. Their lives were worth less than the safety fix, so that way he's pay the fine, pay the benefits. But never once did he think he'd have to spend a year in jail. Oh, it's such an egregious miscarriage of justice. I can't. And it's these Bundy guys too. They're the same way. They're upset because they're told when to go to sleep and when to get up. It's like a complete violation of their rights. Like, well, yeah, you're in prison, you idiot. You're in jail.
There you go.
They'll be in prison soon.
Right.
After they get their constitutionally provided fair trial. And they can, hang themselves on their own petard. And then we can incarcerate them. All right. Nonetheless, Blankenship seems intent on casting himself as the victim with his new booklet in which he intends to mail 250,000 copies this week. How does he get the stamps for this?
Yeah.
I got to tell you, when you go to the commissary, stamps don't cost, 48 cents, 50 cents, whatever they are. Right. There's no life stamps in the commissary. Nonetheless, okay, you can be sure I'm fully innocent, he writes. In fact, more than 100% innocent, because when you're more than 100% innocent, that means you're as guilty as hell. That's what that means. When anybody ever says I'm more than 100% innocent, it means they are in abject denial to the crimes that they've committed that, well, look, misdemeanor? No, murder. And I'm not throwing this out lightly. I'm not really joking. When they have documents where they put the value of a worker's life as expendable because it would save them money. Okay, you will be hearing. Oh, I forgot to say there's a 100% chance of metallic machinery, loud noises happening today, too.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Says, I spent my life improving coal miner safety and exercising my right to free speech. The real conspiracies were the government's cover-up of the upper branch, something, truth, and my prosecution. Okay, Blankenship also commissioned a documentary in 2014, Upper Big Branch, Never Again, in which he and various consultants attribute the explosion to a freak surge of natural gas. You know what happens when you have a freak surge of natural gas? You tapped into something by mistake because you didn't look at the sonograms to see there's a big old cavity there full of gas. Here, let's take some jackhammers, create some sparks. What could go wrong?
Yeah.
What? However, multiple investigations into the disaster found severely inadequate ventilation, plus a buildup of explosive coal dust, combined with a spark from equipment, resulted in a series of mile-long blasts that trapped or incinerated dozens of workers. Death benefits were cheaper than their wages. Blankenship had told Massey executives to put safety improvements on hold, writing to one executive in 2008, "We'll worry about the ventilation or other issues at an appropriate time. Now is not the time." Blankenship's impact on West Virginia and the coal industry will endure far beyond this one-year prison sentence. As Timothy Murphy chronicled in Mother Jones last year, the coal baron took care to present himself as a true son of West Virginia, an honest entrepreneur from humble beginnings who became a self-made success story. But the reality, and in this reporter's opinion, seems like it always is, the reality is somewhat very different. So Murphy writes in Mother Jones, "With his gaze fixed on the bottom line, Blankenship crushed the mine workers' union that was baptized in his backyard. Voluminous court records and government investigations show that he presided over a company that padded its profits by running some of the most dangerous workplaces in the country. Massey polluted the waterways that sustained Blankenship's forebears, rained coal dust on the schoolyards where his miners' children played, and subjected the men he grew up with in southern West Virginia to unsafe working conditions. Blankenship also used his wealth to attain political influence, donating heavily to Republican committees and candidates, a list that features several climate change deniers and EPA haters, and to reshape the political balance of the West Virginia Supreme Court before it took up his appeal of a $50 million fraud suit. Oh, and of course he won that on appeal. Isn't that something? Before being indicted, he openly touted his disapproval of President Obama and the EPA and continued to deny that humans had any role in climate change. Strip mining, mountaintop removal, that doesn't change the environment one iota. And I've got some junk science to back it up. Blankenship is currently awaiting a hearing for October 26 on his appeal to overturn the misdemeanor conviction. "Politicians put me in prison for political and self-serving reasons," he writes in a statement posted on his website, which also refers to him as an American competitionist. What? And he sums up, "I am an American political prisoner." He gets the website, and he's in federal prison. I don't get it. I really, really don't get it. I don't know. I've never made this, any secret, and it's okay. My son spent 3 years in state prison for selling pot.
Yep.
You know the hoops I had to jump through just to write him a letter, and for him to write a letter back. The hoops I had to jump through to get him textbooks and stuff because he was teaching history classes. But, you they don't get to teach all the history, of course, and so you can't have some textbooks that might have some, like, banned material, like, prison reform.
Yeah, exactly.
Somewhere it might have said prison reform, in an 800-page book.
Yeah.
And so you get another one, find an 800-page book that doesn't say prison reform somewhere in it. So I don't understand how this guy, and certainly he wasn't able to go online and communicate with the world. God, I guess federal prison, we're way beyond tennis courts now for these guys. Jesus.
I guess we are. Yeah.
Get an IT person, their own personal IT person, a whole, I guess it's one of those multitask printer fax scanning machines. Oh. I guess if I kill 29 of my employees and I go take a slap on the wrist misdemeanor charge for a year in prison, it sounds pretty good, like good digs to me.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Can't just take it. Okay, I'm going to be skipping back and forth between the Reuters article on Eamon Bundy's defending himself and then the people that were actually there. So I've got an article by Maxine Bernstein out of the Oregonian and then also this one by Reuters. So they kind of give it sort of the talking head reader rendition of it. So rancher Eamon Bundy, I think anti-government secessionist traitor rancher is how I would have put it, who led armed anti-government militants in seizing a U.S. wildlife center earlier this year. Oh, and by the way, Eamon Bundy is not a rancher. He's a mechanic.
Yeah.
He owns like a machine shop.
Yeah.
His dad is nominally a rancher in that he wants his starving cattle to roam all over the countryside. Into his neighbors' yards and properties, too. Everybody around there hates him. But Bundy is not a rancher. Ammon. Bundy took the witness stand for a second day of testimony in his own defense in U.S. District Court in Portland, where he and 6 co-defendants are standing trial for their role in the 41-day takeover of the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge in eastern Oregon. We knew we had to stay at the refuge until we got their attention, Bundy, age 41, said, adding he and his group believed they were justified in forcibly occupying the refuge under a doctrine of property law known as adverse possession, a form of squatters' rights. Now, adverse possession usually occurs when no one is occupying the property.
There you go. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's called an armed takeover. A takeover robbery. Thugs coming into your front door in the middle of the night telling you, get out of here, this is ours. You know, we have a constitutional amendments against quartering, And if these fellows want to present themselves as what? Some sort of military wing of their far-flung military excursion into destroying what it is that they think America isn't? Maybe they're violating the Constitution by forcing themselves to quarter on the Malheur Wildlife Refuge. His group hoped to prod local officials to intervene and ultimately assume ownership of the refuge. What a bunch of idiots. Do you think they think they're in Nevada? While a number of self-styled militia groups rallied to support Bundy, the occupation generated little sympathy from authorities in nearby Harney County. The sheriff called on the group to end its siege peacefully after just 3 days, telling them it's time for you to leave our community. Except Reuters fails to mention that they were in the community, they being the Bundys and Eamon himself, for months on end, intimidating the sheriff's elderly mom.
Yeah.
Following people in the middle of the night, elected officials, to their homes and putting their RV bright lights on the front door until like 3 a.m. Yeah, after 3 days of the refuge, I think the Harney County Sheriff said, okay, get out of our community. We've humored you enough. Oh, not only did they intimidate people in the middle of the night, but they took over government meetings with guns. They walked in armed. Yeah, it's open carry. But usually in public meetings, you don't bring your guns. You leave them at the door. They came in with long rifles and stood around the perimeter while people are having public hearings about what to do with these outsiders coming in here telling us what to do.
Exactly.
As the protest wore on, the occupiers drew ridicule on social media and anonymous deliveries of sex toys, glitter, and nail polish to the compound. Yes. As he insisted at the time, Bundy insisted he was motivated by the plight of two Oregon ranchers, Dwight Hammond Jr. and son Stephen, who were ordered back to prison to complete unfinished sentence for setting fires that had spread to federal property. Yes. To cover up their crime of slaughtering a herd of deer that they were poaching, that had wandered on what they considered to be their property that was federal property. And then they decided to set the federal property on fire, and just, whatever happens, happens. The herd just got caught in this conflagration. Isn't that terrible how God's will works? Dressed in blue jail scrubs with a small copy of the Constitution, because their Reader's Digest version of the Constitution is the bailiffs. Your Honor has just said he can state of mind, but not give them the information they need to access that, Mumford yelled at her. This is a mistrial. It's just not good if I have to stand where the threat came from. What? Please let me finish a sentence before you jump down my throat, Judge Brown said. I need you to calm down. Now, this Mumford guy is a piece of work. It is amazing. He's been told not to present evidence, and he presents it anyway because he's hoping for a mistrial. That's all they got. Since they put it on social media and they intimidated the county for months on end, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, and did I mention they had guns? And this Ammon Bundy also testified that what happened in Nevada when they stood down federal authorities and got their cattle back so they could starve them in the desert some more, that was the impetus to go and back up what the Hammonds were doing, not because they thought, now this is my opinion, because Bundy does says, it's because we felt that the mandatory sentences on the Hammonds were, it's just too much. They shouldn't have to spend this much time. Now, granted, I'm not for mandatory minimums, but it is the law of the land, and people have had to suffer it for a while. Now, when you have these right-wing scofflaw anti-secessionists or secessionist types, anti-government secessionists, now we got to deal with it. But no, they were using the Hammonds as entree into this county in which to further their civil war against the United States. That's what he testified to. Yeah, when we came to the Hammonds' defense, and we had to make a stand so we could symbolize how much we're for the defense. But then he also stated the reason they did is because of they thought they got away with something in Nevada. When the trial resumed, Bundy testified that during a phone call with Dwight Hammond Jr., that Hammond had expressed concerns about his own safety as a result of the efforts Bundy had made on his behalf, and that he also expressed concern for Bundy's safety. Well, the feds are going to come and get us bad. Now, I don't know. We got guns. They might shoot at us. Do you think? As Bundy stepped down from the witness stand for the lunch break, co-defendant Neil Wampler rose at his defense table and started to applaud. We love you, Ammon, Wampler said out loud. Thank you for everything you've done. Ammon Bundy's wife, Lisa Bundy, seated in the public gallery, and other supporters joined in the applause. Clear the effing courtroom. This is in front of a jury.
Oh, man.
Okay. Nevada lawmaker Michelle Fiore testified briefly for the defense. She started, as all witnesses are asked to do, by spelling out her full name. Except when she got to her last name, she said, F is in flower, L is in, or I is in. Can you believe that? before continuing on with each letter. Oh, my God. She repeatedly attempted to offer testimony that during a meeting that members of the Coalition of Western States, or COWS, nice, had in Oregon with Harney County State and FBI representatives on January 9th, that it was verified that the refuge occupiers hadn't broken any Oregon state laws. What? Prosecutor Knight objected multiple times to Fiore's characterization. The judge turned to the witness. "Excuse me, Miss Fiore," the judge said. "Stop making statements about the law." Now remember, at this time she was an elected official. And an out-of-state elected official who gave sucre to the Bundys in her state came to another state and is making up the law in front of a jury. If anyone questioned where Fiore stood in this case, she made it clear when she answered Mumford's question about how long she intended to be at the refuge on February 11th, the day the last 4 holdouts surrendered, ending the 41-day occupation as long as it took the Bearcat to get our fabulous 4 out. Bearcat is Ammon Bundy, by the way. As Fiore left the witness, and she waved to the jurors and mouthed, "Thank you, thank you." These people. God, I am sorry. I am so sorry. We're going a little over, but we got to do this. This is out of NewJersey.com by Todd Sherman and Matt Arco. The George Washington Bridge Lane closure criminal trial has pulled back the curtain on parts of the inner workings of New Jersey's government, including an expletive-filled tirade from Governor Chris Christie. During his testimony Wednesday, former Christie staffer Chris Stark recalled an incident revolving Monmouth County freeholder John Curley. 2 days after Hurricane Sandy in the fall of 2012, Curley expressed his outrage over what he thought was Christie doing nothing but posing for the cameras. We all remember that. "Who does that fat fuck think he is?" Curley said, according to Stark's testimony. Curley later added that actually the full quote was, "Who does that fat motherfucker think he is?"
Oh, man.
The next day, Christie got a call on a cell phone from the governor. Stark recalled Christie called him and told him that he needed to be in Keansburg, and he also used some very strong language. "Tell us what you understood," pressed Michael Critchley, defense attorney for Bridget Ann Kelly, the governor's former deputy chief of staff, who, with Bill Baroni, once a close associate and deputy executive director of the Port Authority, are charged with 9 counts of conspiracy, fraud, and related charges in connection with the September 2013 toll lane shutdowns of the bridge. Stark responded, "All right. From what I understood of the conversation, the governor told Mr. Curley, quote, 'Who the fuck do you think you are calling me a fat motherfucker? I'm the fucking governor of this state. If you're not in Keansburg standing behind me tomorrow on the podium, I will fucking destroy you. I will have a robocall sent to every fucking Republican Monmouth County before election day, telling them to not fucking vote for you.'" The freeholder was duly standing behind the governor for the event, and Curley confirmed on Wednesday that Stark's recollection was accurate. I don't know. I suppose that's not really news, but
that's great stuff.
Yeah, Chris Christie. All right, let's get to our Jim Hightower break. We'll come back and go through the Connect Unite Act Daily Coast community calendar, and then finish up with some international news. You're listening to the After Show on Networks Radio with Lincoln Justice, and we will be right back.
The media establishment has labeled Donald Trump a populist, endorsing his absurd assertion that while he might be a billionaire, he'll be our billionaire, fighting for us commoners. I'm not telling anyone how to vote, and I certainly understand the inclination to grab the biggest stick you can find to whack the bejesus out of those political and corporate elites holding you and your family down. And Trump has sold himself as the biggest, baddest stick around. But I am here to say, don't be a sucker. There's not a single populist muscle in Donnie's whole plutocratic body. He'll sell out wage earners, small business people, and anyone else to serve his own needs or whims, as his lifelong record, as opposed to his recent rhetoric, reveals. Donnie learned to be self-serving from his father, Fred, who became a millionaire by getting federal housing subsidies to build apartment buildings in New York City. Then, as landlord, he flagrantly discriminated against black people trying to rent an apartment. One of Fred's tenants was none other than Woody Guthrie, who was so appalled by Daddy Trump's greed and racism that he wrote songs denouncing him. The Donald not only inherited Fred's fortune, but also his business ethics, including engaging in wage theft, outsourcing his expensive Trump-branded products to such low-wage countries as China and Vietnam, and illegally using and underpaying undocumented immigrants to build his luxury projects. Also, he's been sued hundreds of times for stiffing cabinet makers, plumbers, and other small business suppliers. This is Jim Hightower saying, Donald J. Trump is a swaggering son of privilege who has never been on the side of working people and most certainly would not be a populist president. To the contrary, in his heart, mind, and his whole being, he's nothing but a Trumpist of, by, and for himself.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
Powered by Unity Networks. You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Okay, we're back.
And indeed, we are back, and thank you for sticking with us. This is the After Show with Wink and Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast. Wink is in upstate New York, 21 on the East Coast. Our crew are the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio to span the globe, the universe, and beyond. Even when we have those acts of God in which sometimes, well, we had a small little glitch.
Yeah.
There's something happening in the world, and we have backup for it. So, but sorry about that.
Yes.
Do not fret, though. The full show will be on the podcast.
Oh, yes.
The drop.
Yes.
The drop won't be there. So,
right.
So whatever you missed, and I hear it wasn't for very long, about 20 seconds or so.
Yeah, not bad.
Okay, so today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Codes community calendar is facilitated by Paradise 50, and his opening statement is, pot makes older men better.
Can't hurt.
Maybe that's actually a question.
Yep.
Pot makes older men better? Does it?
Oh, man.
So that, and then he goes through and tells about that. So go check out Paradise 50's essay on that. I don't know. Pot makes people better. It's
but it does take away some of the pain for a few minutes anyway. I guess if you got some aches and pains, it'll kind of reduce that.
I'm going to say that pot doesn't make Gary Johnson any more stupid than he already is.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pot make people stupid. You're as stupid as you already are, and people just notice it because you're on pot.
Exactly
Okay,
right.
Monday, October 24th, 12 p.m. to 6 p.m., the Daily Coast Asheville Cossacks will be meeting up at White Duck Taco, located at 12 Biltmore Avenue in Asheville, North Carolina. And there is a link at the Connect Unite Act Daily Coast Community Calendar Diary in which you can add your name. Randall is normally the front person on that. And but so do that because they're getting ready for early voting with Reverend Barber.
Yes.
This is your Connect Act Daily Coast Community Calendar for the 6th of October of 2016. I apologize. They're scraping the roadway out in front of me because they need to get this thing finished before we get the freeze.
Indeed.
We're having the road, and it's crazy because I have a pretty secure home, but the dust is starting to get to me a little bit here. Just bear with me for one moment. I'll be dropping off the audio just for a second.
There you go. So we can make sure that that gets done. We've had some technical stuff happening the last
clear
couple
the
days.
airways there. I had to clear the airways.
There you go.
But I didn't want to do it on a live mic, so I muted it briefly. Okay. So there was a massive rescue in the Mediterranean. Funny how we didn't hear about that.
Yeah. Imagine.
And this is by Esther Ushile from Think Progress. The Italian Coast Guard and Navy rescued almost 11,000 migrants and refugees on their way to Italy in the Mediterranean Sea so far this week, following a massive effort requiring more than 70 rescue operations on Monday and Tuesday. Tuesday's rescue operations, which took place off the Strait of Sicily, saved more than 4,650 people, and on Monday about 6,055 people were rescued about 30 miles north of Libya, one of the highest numbers of people saved in a single day, Italian and Libyan officials said. More than 20 people reportedly suffocated in the hold of a fishing boat, Reuters reported, putting the total number of deaths over the 2-day period at 50. That includes 11 bodies found washed up on a beach near Tripoli and another 2 people who died when their boat sank off Sabratha. Meanwhile, 3 babies were born in good health on a ship heading for Sicily based on reports relayed by The Guardian. Eris Massini, a photographer with Agence France Presse, witnessed a rescue operation from aboard a Spanish non-government organizational boat. And refugees and migrants have been intercepted on a daily basis, but rescue operations of this magnitude have been rare, at least since the end of August, when 10,000 people were saved in 30 rescue operations over a 36-hour period. Roughly 132,000 people have arrived in Italy since January 3rd of this year, of whom 3,054 have died. Many people desperate to reach Europe leave from Libya, an easy departure point because of the lack of a central government to prevent human smuggling. Libya, it sounds like a libertarian paradise. Maybe that's why they call it Libya.
Exactly.
Okay, just remember, Libya is roughly 180 miles away from Italy at its closest point. Doesn't seem very far on a map.
No.
200 miles on the ocean. You're not swimming that in a few days.
No, you're not. No. On a raft or something, yeah.
Once rescued and dropped off at the Italian islands of Sicily and Lampedusa, refugees and migrants are then fingerprinted and undergo security and medical checks. They are then transported to various facilities around the country to wait for the government to determine whether to grant them humanitarian relief. Syria's 6-year civil war has driven more people to seek refuge and order in other countries, but it's hardly the only place facing increased volatility and insecurity. In Afghanistan, civilian homes have been used as shields after Afghan Army Special Forces took back the main city square in Kunduz from the Taliban recently. About 200,000 Afghans applied for asylum in Europe last year, making them the second largest group of applicants after Syria. You break it, you own it. Remember those words? The largest rescue operations come less than 3 weeks after the United Nations held a high-level summit to address the ongoing migration crisis. Although the meetings were a bold step to get major world leaders to commit to resettling people fleeing disaster, most of the major commitments aren't set to take place until 2018. That's a lot of bodies washing up on shore till then, you know? Well, what are you going to do? So they rescued 11,000 people, almost 11,000 people in 2 days. And Mike Pence is afraid of a couple hundred in Indiana. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's what makes us exceptional. All right. This next one is out of International Business Report by Avi Asher Shapiro. And once again, I apologize for the machinery noise, but it's live radio. Corporations are stashing more and more of their profits overseas, taking advantage of legal loopholes to avoid paying hundreds of billions in U.S. taxes, says a new report. The corporations involved include household names like Nike, Apple, and Goldman Sachs. Okay. A company who makes something, a company who makes something, and a company who makes profits off of people who make things. Okay. The Financial Accountability and Corporate Transparency Coalition analyzed SEC filings from 367 Fortune 500 companies. Why not all 500? Well, in 2009, U.S.-based multinationals held less than $1.25 trillion in overseas tax havens. Yikes. And by 2015, that number climbed to $2.5 trillion. Wow. You mean they started really doing it when the new Democratic administration came into being? Oh, you mean like when we had, the fight for maybe single payer? Let's take our money overseas so we can starve the beast to the size of a bathtub that we can drown it? Is that playing into that game? Well, to put that in context, it is an amount larger than the GDP of France, said Clark Gasquion, the deputy director of the group that made the study, a coalition that includes Citizens for Tax Justice, the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, and the U.S. Public Interest Research Group, otherwise known as PIRG, and that's from their education fund. And every year, corporations collectively report that they have tens of billions more in cash stashed offshore than they did the year before. The hard fact is that the U.S. tax code incentivizes tax haven abuse, said Matthew Gardner of ITEP. American tax laws allow corporations to stash profits overseas and indefinitely delay repatriation, while companies are technically required to disclose to the SEC how much they would have paid in U.S. taxes if they hadn't offshored profits. In practice, few corporations report those numbers. Instead, they take advantage of a loophole in the law which allows companies to opt out of calculating the tax bill if it's not practicable. What? Well, we can't. It's not practical for us to calculate the tax bill because we have so much money stashed over. We can't count it all. And look, we would have made even more if we kept the money in the United States. There's no way to calculate. It's a lot. Let's just say it's a lot. God. Only 58 of the 298 Fortune 500 companies actually reported how much they avoided by booking profits overseas, and they're the honest ones. Yikes. You think the system was corrupt. You would think. $212 billion in total is how much those 58 companies reported. Using this data, the FACT Coalition extrapolated the likely total tax avoidance for all 298 companies. In aggregate, they estimate these corporations hold $2.5 trillion in profits offshore, collectively avoiding $717.8 billion in U.S. taxes.
Yeah.
I don't know. They hate cops. They hate firemen. They hate ER doctors in county facilities. They hate cancer research. It costs, no. If they left their money here in the United States, we would squander it on things like, I don't know, finding a vaccine for Zika.
Yeah.
Instead of doing the things that are important, like a new painless Botox procedure, for instance. Well, the report highlights some of the most egregious examples of offshoring all those profits. Nike. Now, Nike is like, we in Oregon consider Nike to be like a good neighbor. Thank you, Nike. Thank you for building the sports stadiums. Thank you, Nike, for giving the University of Oregon football team 118,000 million different jerseys to wear in a year. Thank you. Nike operates 55 overseas tax haven subsidies, including 3 in Bermuda. Now I'm thinking, if you have a tax haven in Bermuda, it's got to be something more than a mailbox, right? I mean, come on, it's Bermuda. You want to go down there and take in the sun.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Of course, Bermuda has a 0% corporate tax rate, and where Nike does not operate a single actual shoe store. In total, Nike reported $10.7 billion in overseas profits, but paid only 1.4% tax rate. And that's too much, apparently, Wake. They want to make that to zero, I guess.
Yeah.
Goldman Sachs operates 987 separate subsidiaries and offshore tax havens, including 537 in the Cayman Islands, a country that does not levy any corporate taxes. In total, Goldman holds $28.6 billion offshore. That's just one company. I mean, you got Nike at reporting $10.7 billion. You got Goldman Sachs reporting $28.6 billion. That sounds like about $39 billion to me right now, just from those two companies. Well, Goldman is just one of a number of companies that receive federal bailout money from the U.S. government and then take advantage of lucrative tax havens. Oh, thank you for the bailout money. We can't really give restitution to those people that we, stole their homes illegally. Because, look, we have to put it offshore. Our accountant says we got to put it offshore. If we gave it to those people so that they could, they won't make their lives whole with it anyway. But if we gave it to them, we take a bigger tax hit. It says right here in the Bible and right before the Second Amendment in the Constitution, thou shalt not pay more taxes than we can figure out how not to pay. The report also highlights Bank of America, Citigroup, J.P. Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, and Morgan Stanley, which in total operate 2,342 tax haven subsidiaries overseas.
Right.
I suppose one of the strategies is to make it so complex that when you do follow the money, you get lost in the labyrinth. Well, the most dramatic example is Apple. But okay, do no evil. The company holds $214.9 billion. Just say $215 billion. Come on. In overseas shelters. And if it paid taxes on those profits, it would owe $68.4 billion. Well, if they paid that tax, I guess you would be able to have deadly uzu sushi in the commissary. Because you got to hire a special chef to be able to serve the poisonous stuff, which really costs a lot of money. Regulators are taking note. The EU recently fined Apple $14.5 billion for improperly stashing profits in Ireland and evading European taxes. Well, yeah, but that's Europe. Overall, companies tend to tuck their profits in locations where they don't actually do much real business. According to the Congressional Research Service, nearly 50% of offshore profits are reported in just 5 countries: Bermuda, Ireland, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and Switzerland. Only 4% of these companies' foreign workforces actually work in those countries, and they account for less than 7% of foreign investment. Yes. On the campaign trail, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton have criticized the proliferation of corporate inversion, whereby a corporation buys a smaller foreign company and re-registers as a non-U.S. entity. Trump has railed against inversions because he does it all the time, and proposed a tax holiday which would allow corporations to bring back their profits to the U.S. and pay a reduced tax rate of 10%. Clinton voted for a similar plan as a senator back in 2004, but she hasn't backed or criticized the strategy as a presidential candidate. Clinton has proposed an exit tax for companies moving overseas and plans to restrict corporations that want to move unless they actually do more than 50% of their business outside the U.S. Well, I guess there's a tax fix. The Fat Coalition does call for a simple fix. Change the section of the U.S. tax code, which allows U.S. companies to postpone paying taxes on foreign profits and charge companies the full 35% corporate tax rate on overseas earnings. But of course, they also acknowledge that such a proposal won't get any traction. Not when you're able to $215 billion? Apple alone?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's just Apple.
Yep.
Can't fix the bridges.
No. Country's broke.
Look, now this article, I'll just sum up very quickly here, but I just want to make it clear. Trump, yes, has come out against tax inversions, but he's also come out for them. All right, he's all over the place, so you can't trust what that guy says.
Yeah, yep.
Just saying.
Yeah, it changes day to day.
This article kind of dissed Hillary by, even though she's had a plan since 2004, they're making it sound like she doesn't have a plan.
Right.
They just, it's typical. All right, I got that rant out of the way. Stay tuned to Netroots Radio for the rest of the day. We got to bug out of here. Got some great content, and bear with us as we have to do some procedures to get ready for a software fix that we will be doing over the weekend.
Yeah.
So if we happen to have small drops, bear with us. Just refresh your browser. But we should be okay until I give you the announcement that we'll probably be off the air briefly, and then playing our backup plan while we get our software fixed, and we'll be back to regular programming as soon as possible, sometime this weekend. Yep. All right. So, like I said, continue listening 24/7, 365 to Netroots Radio. And why? Well, because who loves you, baby? Okay, week. I will see you on the other side.
All right. We're out.